Number 10. Murder at the Fun Center. In March 2022, a man had a meltdown at a bowling alley and beat a woman to death over a bowling ball. Atlanta police were quick to identify the man as 25-year-old Joshua Fleetwood. It happened at a place called Metro Fun Center in southwest Atlanta, but the center was anything but fun that night when Fleetwood got into an argument with 31-year-old Lakevia Jackson. Lakevia was there that night to celebrate her best friend's birthday. Everyone was just bowling and having a good time, and then came Fleetwood. The two parties were bowling next to each other, lane by lane the whole night. One person wanted to use the bowling ball, the other side said it was their ball, and things escalated very quickly. Fleetwood became so angry that he went out to his car and got a gun. Then he came back inside and started shooting at Lakevia and her friends. Lakevia was the only person that took a bullet, and tragically, she died from her injuries. Fleetwood has since been charged with felony murder and will likely be spending the rest of his life behind bars. Number 9. Just a Kiss. In October 2021, Claudia Resendiz Flores had just moved in with her friend James Jones and his girlfriend at their Rolling Meadows, Illinois home. The three were drinking together one night when Claudia asked Jones to kiss her. He said no, pointing out that he was in a happy relationship, and then kissed his girlfriend instead. Claudia got angry and demanded that Jones kiss her, but they kept saying no. James noticed that she had slipped her hand between the couch cushions where he kept his gun and watched in horror as she turned the safety off and pointed it at him and his girlfriend. He tried to swat the gun out of her hands, but her finger was on the trigger and she shot him in the chest. Officers quickly responded to a call from a neighbor about hearing gunshots. When they arrived at the scene, they found James lying in a pool of his own blood. Medical personnel tried to save him, but it was too late. He was pronounced dead and Claudia was arrested for first-degree murder. She is currently being held without bail. Number 8. Grocery Store Axe Maniac. A guy with an axe had a public meltdown and destroyed a grocery store. Why? Because the employees at the store refused to serve his wife when she refused to put on her mask. This happened during the height of the pandemic in the coastal city of Mariupol in Ukraine. The woman tried to make a purchase inside the supermarket without her mask on. The cashier said she couldn't and they got into an argument. The woman refusing to wear a mask got a crazy look in her eyes and then left the store, went to get her husband, and he turned out to be even crazier than she was. He showed up at the store with an axe and swung the weapon down right onto the checkout counter. One of the employees hit the panic button and then they all ran to safety while the axe-wielding maniac destroyed 4 cash registers, smashed up the counter, and did about $4,000 in damages before he left. The lunatic may have gotten away with his meltdown too if he hadn't bragged about the attack later in a Facebook post. The post helped police track him down and he was arrested on a charge of hooliganism and now faces up to 7 years in prison. Number 7. PDA Meltdown. In 2017, a woman named Anna Storelli had a major public meltdown at a restaurant in Santa Monica, California. She totally lost control when she saw someone get a perfectly innocent kiss on the top of their head. A couple at a table near hers were getting very comfortable together, holding hands, gazing into each other's eyes, just being in love. The man literally had his arms around his lover's back and he gave her a gentle kiss on the head. Not her mouth, it was literally the kind of kiss a grandma would give her grandchildren when she puts them to bed. This was as far as the public display of affection really went. Anna saw this happen and got really upset. She started screaming in the middle of the busy restaurant, yelling at the couple to get a room and telling them people are trying to enjoy their food, insisting that they know how uncomfortable their infection had made her feel. Anna went completely off the rails and started swearing at the girl. She told her she was ugly along with a bunch of other very rude and nasty things. She then threatened to call the police. She even said she was going to tell the officers that they were doing prostitution in public. After her episode, she demanded the restaurant refund her meal because she was so upset. The icing on top of the cake, though, is Anna is actually a cam girl. After her outburst went viral, people were quick to identify her as an adult entertainer who uploads risque videos of herself for money. What would you do in this situation? Tell us in the comments and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Number 6. Red Wings. In 2017, a man boarded a plane on a Red Wings flight from Russia to Turkey. He had never been on a plane before and had a little bit of anxiety about it. He thought having a couple of drinks would calm his nerves. He didn't realize, though, that drinking would only make him more anxious. Everything started out pretty normal. The man had a couple of cocktails and the flight was going smoothly, but before long he was belligerently drunk, and that was when the cabin crew denied him any more alcohol. This made him really mad, and he started stomping up and down the aisles demanding booze. He eventually sat down, but he was already feeling some type of way. He punched the back of the seat in front of him and flailed around so much he bashed himself in the face and caused a nosebleed. He was absolutely soaked in blood by the time the other passengers managed to hold him down and tie him up with seat belts. To make things even more embarrassing, he was reportedly traveling with his wife and 2 kids. He ended up being detained in Turkey, and his wife and children flew back to Russia without him. Number 5. Melty Meltdown. It was a hot Sunday afternoon in May 2017 when 35-year-old Angela Robinson found herself being arrested for attempted murder. Angela was working as a clerk at a convenience store in Charleston, South Carolina called the Rosemont Pantry. A customer came in and bought themselves a candy bar, but when he walked outside to enjoy his treat, he realized it had melted already. He was annoyed and didn't even want it anymore, so he went back inside the store and told Angela he wanted a refund and suggested she keep her candy in a cooler place so it doesn't melt. Angela's response was to attack the man. She beat him with a fan, later chased him out of the store, and then got into her SUV and tried to run him over. When she missed, she jumped out of the vehicle, pulled a knife, and tried to stab the guy to death. All the guy wanted to do was get some candy from the store, and he wound up getting stabbed by a crazy lady. Luckily, the victim wasn't hurt too badly. He received a cut to his arm and 1 stab wound on his leg and was treated for his injuries at Roper Hospital. Angela was taken to jail with a bond set at $60,000. It's unclear what really triggered her to do something so wild. Number 4. Emotional Support Pig. In 2021, a woman took her emotional support pig for a walk and found herself being accosted by a furious stranger, aka a Karen. The Karen couldn't believe the woman would walk a big pig down the street and let it go to the bathroom near a tree. The emotional support pig is a pretty beefy animal, weighing several hundred pounds. His name is Chorizo. He's definitely bigger than an ordinary dog, and yet he does the same kinds of things a dog does. He walks down the sidewalk sniffing at stuff with his snout, and when he has to use the bathroom, he stops on some grass and does his business. Well, this one especially cranky woman was not having it. She came out of nowhere, walked straight up to Chorizo and his owner, and started screaming. She wanted to know why the woman had a pig in the middle of a park, and when the owner of the pig tried to explain that it was an emotional support animal, the woman just kept on hollering at them. She tried to lecture the pet owner about living in a community where there are rules. She just wouldn't leave the poor lady and her pig alone. She even said the pig was going to eat the landscape. After a painful amount of yelling and arguing, the Karen finally left. But still, her unnecessary meltdown in the public park had made an unpleasant day for everyone. Poor Chorizo. Number 3. Wendy's incident. On a Thursday night in June 2022, a woman named Shamia Tillman from Lehigh Acres was caught on video having a meltdown at a Wendy's. According to the police, Shamia went through the drive-thru to get her food, but she wasn't happy with her order. So, she decided to go inside and complain. But instead of politely asking the employees to remake her order, she had a meltdown and started throwing her food and drinks. She was screaming at everyone behind the counter and trying to physically attack them. She even bit one of them on the finger like some kind of mad animal with rabies. She bit them so hard that it broke the skin. Then came a DoorDash delivery driver who thought he could de-escalate the situation. He put himself between Shamia and the employees and tried to calm everyone down. But there was no calming Shamia down. She slapped him across the face and then ripped the iPhone out of his hand and threw it at an employee's head. Even when the cops showed up, Shamia just couldn't be brought back to reality. She kicked and screamed all the way into the back seat of the squad car. When the deputy tried to speak with her, she spat in his face. Shamia's fast food meltdown landed her in the Lee County Jail. Number 2. Fake Vagrant. In 2017, 40-year-old Micah Lee Dominguez was exposed for pretending to be homeless. Micah was caught panhandling even though she wasn't a vagrant and didn't actually need the money. People saw her begging, became suspicious, and followed her back to her brand new car. She had been standing in the middle of the road asking people passing by in cars for money, then taking all their kind charity back to her own car and driving home. A pair of men confronted her on video, telling her that they caught her red-handed. Micah claimed that she was panhandling because she had a disability and needed the extra cash, but that was a lie. The video quickly went viral and people that drove past her knew she wasn't really homeless. Instead of giving her change, they yelled and harassed her until she lost control and started flinging Gatorade bottles at cars. Micah was then arrested and thrown into the Henrico County Jail for her unhinged meltdown. Number 1. Flight Freakout. 32-year-old Valerie Gonzalez was extremely drunk when she got kicked off a JetBlue plane in in 2019. She was going from Fort Lauderdale to Las Vegas. The trip should have gone by fairly quickly, but as soon as Valerie realized she had been placed next to a 3-year-old, she burst into a fit of rage. She refused to sit next to a small child because, in her own words, she had been drinking all day. Valerie got out of her seat and found an empty seat somewhere else, but she didn't like that seat either. The people who were sitting in front of her weren't up to Valerie's satisfaction, so she started screaming and swearing as loud as she could. She literally had a temper tantrum while the plane was preparing to take off. Things only got worse when she realized people had their phones out recording her behavior, and she started spitting and hissing at them. Before long, the flight attendants asked Valerie if she could please get off the airplane, but she kept making a scene. Security came and put her in a wheelchair. They rolled her out of the terminal, then took her to the North Broward Bureau Jail, where she was charged with battery for her poor public behavior and spitting on people. Thanks for watching. What's the craziest meltdown you've ever witnessed? Tell us about it in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time on The Bad Badger.